going on, everybody? It's Swordsoul coming at you with a brand new video, and so today I wanted to showcase the Swordsoul deck list that I've been using the past couple of weeks now to get a pretty decent record overall at my local tournament scene. I've gone X1 every single tournament, putting me at 2 5-rounders and 2 4-rounders, leaving me with a record of about 14-4. And not gonna lie, I've been really content with my build overall. I've tested a lot of different side deck choices and even main deck choices, but I think now I've like quote-unquote perfected it, even though there's like, you know, stuff I still want to change and there's stuff that I'm missing as well. But I think for what I have and what I'm choosing to play for now, I think it is really good, and I just wanted to showcase to you guys exactly what it looks like. So I'm not gonna waste too much time. I'm gonna go ahead and get right into this. So, starting off, we have our monsters. Of course, it's going to start us off with, sorry if it takes me a second to set things down, I'm trying to, like, look past my camera. Starting off with 3 copies of Swordsoul of Moyi, 3 copies of Longwan, 2 copies of Taya, and 2 copies of Ecclesia. Hopefully the bar doesn't take too much space up because I will have the deck list off to the side, as I always do for my personal deck profiles. But yeah, this ratio is very standard, 3 and 3. This is your only extender in the deck because for some reason Chunjin just doesn't make a token. Taya is your amazing crackback card as well as a backup play going first. And Ecclesia, you don't want to play too many of because while she is really good going second, she is just another normal summon out of the 2 you already have, so that puts her at 3 of your normal summons turn 0. So yeah, you don't really want to clog yourself up on them too much, but other than that, very standard. Next up, we have the Tenyi cards, and we have 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Ashuna, 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Vashuda, 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit Adhara, and 1 copy of Tenyi Spirit Sthana. Again, sorry if anything is wrong with the video or the audio. My camera is literally completely blocking my view, which is kind of frustrating, but it's whatever. But yeah, so this is also decently standard. 3 Ashuna is very standard. The 1 Sthana for your Heavenly Dragon Circle and stuff. I've seen differing ratios of these. I was playing 2 and 2, but I decided to bump it up to 3 for the going second place, also because I found myself wanting the second one a lot, and then I ended up banishing the third off of the desires, so... Plus, I want to always try and have a Tenyi name live in deck for Ashuna, because I found myself a lot of times, both before putting it to 3 and now, where I have Ashunas engraved that would help me a lot if I had any Tenyi name, but then I just completely run out because of desires or because I've used them all. Speaking of desires, Sthana just always feels like it wants to disappear on me off of desires, which is really frustrating, but what can you do? Yeah, here is also pretty standard as well. Onto the hand traps, we play 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 copies of DD Crow, and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. So I went with these hand traps because they feel like the best ones currently that the Swordsoul deck can actually play because you don't really want to de-shifter yourself. Only 2 Ash because I don't like breaking on multiple copies of Ash. I said the same thing in my Tri-Brigade Lyra deck profile, which you should also totally check out. It's really good. I went undefeated at a case tournament with it aside from a draw. 2 copies of DD Crow is pretty standard right now. It helps in the tier matchup because the tier matchup can be really annoying. And then Imperm is arguably one of, if not the best hand trap in the entire game. Onto our spell and trap lineup, I'm starting us off with 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence and 1 copy of Swordsoul Sacred Summit. The Summit, other than like being a thing in general, this is pretty standard as well. Some people aren't playing the Summit, some people are playing 1 Summit, but it's literally just one of those ratios that you get to choose. No more than 1 is needed, and I actually really like this card. I've had a couple people try and tell me, or at least one person that played Swordsoul, he said that he didn't really think it was necessary, but the amount of times that this has saved my ass, like, and I promise you it's not like Magic Cylinder won me a game one time, so it's good. Like, I promise you, this card actually lets me do so much. Yes, it is kind of annoying to have in hand with no legal targets engraved, but at that point, I guess it's just a skill issue. Because, like, it's a searchable monster reborn that can summon back something like Taya. Like, what more do you want? But yeah, not only does this let me get a crackback, it saved me in a tier matchup against a pro player, like, the other week, which was really sweaty. But yeah, this is, like, really good for your recovery, as well as helping you extend on turn 1. If you feel like you need that extra, synchro, or if you feel like you, can go into it and it'd be better, like something like Chaofeng, then this card is just really, really helpful for that. I'm also running 2 copies of Vessel for the Dragon Cycle and 2 copies of Heavenly Dragon Circle. This is probably one of the main things, ratio-wise, that I want to change. Sorry for the angles, by the way. I think the camera's slightly angled. But these are some of the main things that I'm thinking about changing a little bit. I keep drawing into both vessels for some reason, which is really weird. And then also, I feel like while I am drawing into Heavenly a decent amount, I don't think I'm drawing into it as much as I'd like to, especially when things like Mystic Mine running around that require me to drop my monster count a bit more. So I'm thinking of either going down to 1 vessel or going up to 3 Heavenly Dragon Circle. I don't know yet. It would require a lot more extensive testing, but it's just something that I am thinking about because I am seeing a lot of frustrating moments, especially because Vessel on its own, like on their own, neither of these do anything, right? Like our friend of the channel, Javon, I played against him last night and he used Triple Tactics talent. He looked at my hand. I had Emergence, 1 of each of these, and then 2 Ash. And I already used the Ash, that's why I used the Triple Tactics. And he was just like, oh, you have a lot of starters in hand. This is a hard choice. And I'm like, no, I don't have a lot of starters in hand because these two do absolutely nothing on their own. So that's what is really annoying. So yeah, either 1 of this, 3 of this, or maybe even 1 and 3. Something like that I will test around with, but I can't say anything for now, to be too sure at least. We also have the 2 copies of Pot of Desires. You're playing Swordsoul, Desires is kind of mandatory. I'm also main decking 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More. This is pretty standard for a lot of decks right now, but I think it's also just really good in Swordsoul especially, because the deck has a lot of going second plays, especially with Ecclesia, Vishuda, things like that. You can break boards pretty easily, especially with Chengying too. And if you have Baronet, you can play the Baronet to pop things. So having the access to the Dark Ruler in the main when you're forced to go second against oppressive decks like Tyr, it's just really helpful. Also when you're going first against Tyr, because, you know, Havness is a card. Finally, we just have the 1-ofs. We have the 1 copy of Called by the Grave. It's Called by the Grave. And then I play 1 copy of Cosmic Cyclone. So I am playing more ways to out Mystic Mine as well, but I think the 1 Cyclone is like really good right now for the Mystic Mine in particular. But it also hits things like Fateful Adventure, the Tear Field spell, you know, if you draw it game 1. But it is mainly just in here for Mystic Mine because, God forbid, we get a ban list anytime soon, Konami. And then finally, to wrap up the list, I am playing 2 copies of Swordsoul Blackout, so I have a few reasonings for this. So, 1, you're playing Desires, and you kind of want your Blackout, so you don't really want to, you know, hit 1 and then not have it at all. 2, multiple Blackout has come up for me a few times. You know, being able to use it once and for like a Mystic Mine or something, and then use it again for like an oppressive thing. 3, you know, Mystic Mine as well. You really want to open a Blackout. I really like opening the Blackout so that I don't have to worry about searching it off of the Chi-Xiao, and if I don't have my Long Wand already. And then finally, there are moments where, say you have Moyi, Long Wand, and then like any worm in hand. So you normally your Moyi, you reveal the worm, and your Moyi gets Imprime, you don't have the Heavenly. So then you Long Wand, pitching the worm to special the Long Wand and the token. Use the token and the Moyi to go into your Chi-Xiao. Use the Chi-Xiao to banish the Blackout from your deck. And then you use that to make a token, which then you can use your Long Wand and the token to go into your level 10 Synchro of choice. That way you can do that safely while still having a Blackout available that you could either have already in hand or have for later purposes. Plus, it's always just really easy if I know I'm going second to side out 1 or both Blackout, so that's just extra side deck flexibility there. So that is going to do it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we're going to start off with our very standard Swordsoul ratios. We have 2 copies of Swordsoul Grandmaster Chi-Xiao, 1 copy of Chengying, and 1 copy of Qixing Long Wand. This should probably go up to 2, I just don't have a second one. I will tell you now that I don't own a Baronet of Flirt anymore. I did sell it to our friend M-Rocket for his Swordsoul list because half of these Swordsoul cards are his. I'm borrowing them currently off of him. But I don't currently have a second Chengying. He said he'd give me one, but then I totally spaced on asking him, and I don't really care too much. But having the 3rd level 10 option is really nice to go into, especially in a grind game. So yeah, Baronet if you have it, if you want to copy this list. Second Chengying if you don't. For the Yang Zing portion, yes, I'm separating it into the Yang Zing portion. We have 2 copies of Boxia, 1 copy of Yazi, and 1 copy of Chaofeng. So, basically, in terms of importance, it goes 1, 2, 3. Boxia I make basically every game, especially when I have to go second, and when I have access to Taya, because, you know, Taya shuffling 2 and getting a dump is just so free. Also, did you guys know that Boxia can pop himself? I had no idea. I feel so stupid because Yazi can pop itself, but, like, I swear for the longest time, Boxia said 1 other card you control. And like last night, I found that out and it clutched me up a game because I just popped it, summoned back like a Moyi or a Taya, and then I just went for a Chi-Xiao, and then I got the Chi-Xiao to add Long Wand. It was so good. I was so confused how I didn't realize that until now. But yeah, Boxia can literally pop itself to reborn something. It's so good. Speaking of really good, Yazi actually came up a lot more for me so far than I originally had thought. I was like, yeah, you know, making the level 7 doesn't feel like it's gonna be that worth it. Plus, you know, all it is just a pop. But the thing is, what you can really do is you can go like Moyi, normal, or I'm sorry, not Moyi, Taya, sorry. You can literally start with Emergence and any worm in hand. You activate your Emergence, add your Taya, normal your Taya, effect banishing Emergence to make a token, Emergence lower the level of one of them by 1, and then you go Taya and the Emergence, and the token, I'm sorry, to go into your Yazi. Taya gets to dump something for free, which can be your, you know, Tenyi plays like your Ashuna, which is really good in that situation, or even a Vishuda. You can then use the Yazi targeting itself and a card on the opponent's field. You can pop that card and the Yazi. Yazi will then trigger to specialty Moyi from your deck. Moyi will reveal the worm in your hand. You can make another token, use your Tenyi Engrave like your Ashuna to special like your Vishuda, and get that for your Monk. Make a Chi-Shao off the Moyi and the token, get a free draw, use the Chi-Shao to add the Longwan. Longwan pitches the worm that's in your hand, summon, make your level 10 of choice, burn for 12, and then of course now you have a Monk, both of your normal bodies on board, and you had the resources from the Yazi to get extra access to things in your graveyard. Funnily enough, I actually did have Yazi miss timing in real life against an Unchained player, because I knew he had the the Torrential Tribute, because I kind of like saw it when he flipped it up. He kind of like didn't hide it very well, and also because Unchained, it's kind of obvious they're playing Torrential Tribute. And even then, I still summoned Yazi, chained Taya in my grave as chain link 1, and then he chain link 2 Torrential Tributed on summon. I literally did not get the Yazi float because he Torrential Tributed as Chainlink 2 or higher. It was so sad, and I ended up losing that game because of it. I got the entire match off of him, but it was just so funny to see Yazi actually missing timing, like outside of EDO Pro. And then Chao Feng is Chao Feng. You know, you make him once every like 30 games in Swordsoul. I think I maybe made him once just for an extra like bigger body than Boxia. And I think I already had that game in the bag anyway. But yeah, Chao Feng's fine. It's definitely worth playing, but, you know, I just don't make it, like, ever, personally. Next up, we have one copy of Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. This card puts in so much work. You have no idea if you haven't played Swordsoul. Wow, like, this card is going first, it's destroying tier limit. It's going second, it's destroying any deck that leaves monsters on board. You can literally punch, gain attack permanently, punch again, and on top of that, it's literally a banish when your opponent activates a monster effect, which can completely shut off things, again, like the tier limit monsters. If they activate a tier engrave and you banish it, they can't do anything. It's why DD Crow is so good. So the deck does have a native out to tier, which is an annoying matchup, and you can usually get this on top of your typical end board. Like, if you don't feel like going for your level 10, or if you have access to, like, the Sacred Summit or the Shaman, you can get this on top of your level 10 and your Chi-Shao, and you can, like, completely obliterate a tier player. I don't remember how exactly I did it, but I was playing against the pro player playing tier, and it was my turn 0. I made Chi-Shao, and I had, like, a Boxia because he made Kaleido Heart and Dragostapelia on my turn, and spun my stuff, you know, changed my levels of my stuff. Yeah, I believe... Oh, yeah, so how it went was I made Yazi, I think. Maybe. Or I used the level 1 long one somehow, because he used Dragostapelia to change long one to level 1. I used that somehow to get me access to the Shaman, actually. Yeah, I had a Monk, and then I used the long one for a Shaman, I think, somehow. I don't remember, guys, exactly. But just know that I ended up somehow using Boxia to pop the Shaman, summon back the, I think the Moyi engrave, actually. Yeah, I had to do something involving the long one and everything to get the worm in hand, but I summoned back the Moyi and made the Draco Berserker, and because I made the Draco Berserker on top of the Boxia and the Chi-Shao, he had no way to out my board, and I ended up taking that game 3 right there, and that's how I ended up winning. But yeah, Draco Berserker is just such a good card. Next up, we just have some miscellaneous stuff. We have the one Dragite. This is here for the Gozen match. I haven't been Gozen matched yet, but it's nice to have it just in case, especially for games 2 and 3 if you do have Nib in your main deck. You can actually, like, excavate the top 5. You have a very high chance of seeing a Nib there if you're playing 3 like me. And that's free non-targeting bounces there. Like, especially if you open multiple, like, that's crazy. And then we also have one Cypher Lord Omega. This is the flex spot that's supposed to be the second Chengying or the Baronet. That's the only reason this is in here. I never made this, ever. I just don't think it's too great because I'm usually locked into worms. And then finally, we're gonna wrap it up with the Link monsters. 3 copies of Monk of the Tenyi and 1 Shaman of the Tenyi. I think this is very standard here. I mean, I was playing 2 Monk at first because I did experiment with both a Super Poly and a Cherries package in the deck. The Super Poly literally never came up because my opponents always somehow played around it. For example, the tier player, instead of going into Time Thief Redoer, he went into Abyss Dweller on top of his Kit Kalos, and so I couldn't Super Poly into Garura there. And then I was playing against the Adventure Nordic guy at my locals. Yes, that is a deck, and he's pretty good with it, not gonna lie. I expected him to go into Golvig and then into Odin, and I was gonna Super Poly the Golvig and the Odin, but he went into Thor instead, and so the Super Poly in my hand was dead there as well. As for the Cherries, not only did the Cherries not come up either really all that much, because I'd have to draw it anyway, but I also just didn't have the proper targets. I was running Redoer and Hulk for my tier and Punk targets instead of Kit Kalos and Chaos Ruler, and that was kind of rough, but I think now that I have like the actual freedom in my extra and side deck to go for whatever I please, it is a bit better, and the 3rd Monk has just come up a lot. And then also Shaman is just a ridiculous card, like summoning back a Taya or a Moyi from Grave to get me the extra Synchro is just so good. But yeah guys, with that out of the way, I do believe that is it for my entire list. So again, I've been really happy with how I've been playing so far. I have made a few mistakes. A lot of my losses were actually because of my own mistakes rather than because of, luck. Some of them are because of luck, because, Dimensional Barrier is still unfortunately a card. But other times it's like, I didn't use a Tenyi engrave when I could have, or I searched the wrong card off a Chi-Shao. Like, against the tier player yesterday, I got 2-0'd because game 1, I literally had the Taya and the long one in hand, right? And I told myself, I could search a summon off of Chi-Shao right now and get an additional level 8 Synchro like a Draco Berserker and completely destroy him. Unfortunately, I ended up searching Blackout because I thought that'd be a good idea. I literally told myself, nah, I shouldn't go for the summon. I don't have a good play there after telling myself the play. And I searched the Blackout, which was terrible for me because all I popped was like a Kaleido Heart and a Curious, and that he just summoned back the Kaleido Heart because I forgot that it floated really good. So yeah, that was a big mistake on my end. And then game 2, we were literally so distracted talking, or I was so distracted in the conversation we were having about like my channel and everything like that, I forgot I had lost and that it was my choice to go first or second. So I side in all going second cards, and then as we draw our hands and put them face down, we don't look at them obviously. We do that. He asked me if I want to go first or second, and I'm like, oh, right. And so I'm forced to grit my teeth and go second. And of course, even though he assumed I'd probably end up going first, he still had D barriers in there. So I ended up ashing, I think, the Rhino Heart, or I DD Crow the thing that he dumps. Like he dumps a Hovness and I DD Crow it. And so he ends on like Field Spell, Rhino Heart, 1 face down pass. And I'm like, all right, I got this. So my hand was pretty good. I top deck a Droll, I have an Evenly in hand, and then I have like literally Vessel, Longwan, Moyi. I have like the nuts. And then I go, all right, I'm going to be a little bit petty because, I don't want him to have things on board that he could use for, like, Fusion Summon if that's a face-down Meta Noise or Soliac. So I enter battle, end of battle, activate Evenly, and I eat a D-Barrier. Yeah, eat a D-Barrier game 2 when he assumes that I'm going to be going first. That's so painful. But, I mean, live and learn, I guess. But other than that, I've been really happy playing Swordsoul. I love this deck so much. I feel like it's the perfect combination of simple and complex. Like, it has such a high ceiling, but a very low floor as well. So you play it pretty simple, but when you actually have to sweat, there are a lot of times where it's like, should I make a Yazi here? Should I just go straight for the Boxia? Should I go for the Monk or save the Adhara for a Synchro play? It's just been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see how the deck keeps going through this format because, a lot of people are saying that Swordsoul has been power corrupt already. I highly disagree. I think the only problem is that Dark Ruler's in the main deck of, like, every deck right now, and Droplet as well, and this deck kind of dies to it without the Blackout, as well as just having an innate, quote-unquote, weakness to tier if you don't draw the DD Crow or access the Draco Berserker, because, if they Hovness, and especially if they make a Winda, but even if they make, like, a Kaleido Heart and perfectly time it, or if they Meta Noise, flip face down like your Moyi or your Taya, I mean, what can you really do there if you don't have extenders, I would love if the deck got another extender, but, I don't really care too much. But what I would love is if they, freed our certain level 5 Worm Tuner Synchro monster off the ban list when they eventually drop it in 2 years. Come on, Konami, get on it. I got ultra rare 9 pillars and I'm already antsy. Yeah, with that out of the way though, that's gonna have to do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you liked it and you want to see more content like this, like more deck profiles, I try to put up as many as I can for all the decks that I like to play, then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're on our way to 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. We've already cracked the 1,800 mark, and we're just growing more and more every day. And it means a lot to me and supports the channel more than anything else. Plus, it's absolutely free. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.